Hola! Today we're going to learn about tener, which means to have. So, in English and in Spanish, to have is a verb. We haven't talked about verbs in a while, but remember in Spanish and in any language you have to conjugate your verbs, which means changing the ending based on pronouns. So, I'm sure you remember this pronoun chart. If you don't, you'll need to learn it again. But what I mean again by conjugating a verb is you change the endings in every single one of these boxes. So remember when we did the verb ser, which means to be, so like am, is, and are, we had yo soy here in this first box. The second box, it was tú eres. Third box, él, ella, usted, es, nosotros, somos, and so on. So the verb tener is going to be similar, where tener itself means to have, but then we're going to have different forms of a verb in each box, which are the conjugations. So without further ado, here is the verb tener. So for instance, tener means to have, whereas tango is going to mean I have. Tienes, you have. Tiene, he has, she has, or you formal have. Tenemos, we have. Vosotros and vosotras, you all, informal, in Spain have. And then ellos, ellas, they have. Ustedes, you all have. So please pause this, copy down the verb tener in this chart form, and then we'll continue. So now that you have tener copied down, I want you to use your notes, and we're going to translate some of these. I'll do a couple just to get you started. So I have math class. Think on your chart which box is I. The I box is the yo box. In that box, it's tango. So tango, you can use your vocab list, how to say math class. So it would be la clase. And then since math is acting as an adjective, it's going to come after and say matemáticas. Next one, how do I say we have? So a we box is nosotros. So tenemos la clase de ciencias. Perfecto. So you might be wondering, why did I not write yo up here? So I perfectly could have written yo. I'll put it in parentheses. Same thing here on we, nosotros. But remember, in Spanish, we don't always have to include the subject pronouns because conjugating the verbs does that already. So if it helps you, include the subject pronouns. However, it's not required. So they have English class. If you want to write out they, you can. It would be ellos, or we could do ellas, either one, since it didn't specify here in the question. The form of tener in that box is tienen la clase de inglés. And finalmente, you have Spanish class. So we have all these different ways to say you in Spanish. Let's just go with someone who you'd probably be talking to informally. So tú tienes la clase de español. So once again, you don't have to include these pronouns, such as tú, if you don't want to. However, you're more than welcome to do so if you so choose. So then the last thing I want to discuss is the phrase tener plus K. So I'm going to conjugate the verb tener here, and then when I put the word K after it, it's going to mean to have to now. So this goes along with talking about classes because you have to do certain things in each class. So for instance here, we have to study. We, once again, nosotros, include it if you want to, you don't have to. What form of tener is in the nosotros box? That would be tenemos. Then I'm going to look up here at my formula. I have tener, then the next thing is K. So I just had K, that's kind of like the have to, the to part of have to. And then to study is estudiar. Next one, students have to raise their hands. This is the important one, I think. So, I'm going to be sure to include the word students here, since it's not a pronoun, and whoever I'm talking to might not know I'm referring to students. So unlike the pronouns, I will be sure to include this. Have to, when saying tienen, for tener, the have to is this phrase up here, so que. And think back to the first lesson, for raise your hands, levantar las manos. You might notice here with estudiar and levantar, I did not change these endings. So after tener que, I'm not going to change the ending of a verb that comes after it. So that would be, I guess, the last thing to add to your notes. So from this slide, you'll definitely want to write down the formula tener plus que, maybe one example, and then don't conjugate the verb that comes after tener que. And that is everything. Hasta luego.